we engage with you with a very, very pertinent and very important topic. This concerns content around the military veterans. Yes, I'm not alone. Nipete, a colleague we used to call Komisa Mbu at some point in time, in so many, many years ago. Today, he is called Mr. Mbulelo Mosi. Yes, indeed, Mr. Mbulelo Mosi, heading the Department of Communications in the Department of Military Veterans. Let me just paint a picture. Today, and this particular period, is that time when people are trying to place or to find places in the institution of higher learning. The department is part of that mix. They are trying to do this on behalf of the military veterans. Who are these military veterans? Who are these people that we are going to be talking about today? I know Ntate Mbulelo Mosi is going to tell us who are these people. Ntate Mosi, before we start with the program, greet the listeners.
Let me say good evening, Lennox, and thanks for the compliments. Compliments of the new season to you and all the listeners. And let me take this opportunity to wish the class of 2018 congratulations for what they've done, those who've passed, and wish them the best in 2019. We start the year on a very difficult footing, but positive and optimistic that we'll resolve the issues at hand on education. Because we believe education is not only a constitutional right, but a fundamental human right, which is entitled to by military veterans, the people of South Africa as a whole, so that they can use it as an instrument to build a better life that we all envisage. So to that extent, the department looks at this as a very critical matter of our intervention in terms of helping military veterans and their kids. And therefore, we welcome the opportunity that we should explain what we're doing, what we've done, what we seek to do, what the challenges we face, and how we're resolving them.
Ntate Mosi, to me, I think it's very, very critical that we really paint a picture. Who are these people? Who are the military veterans? You see, so many of us today find ourselves in places that we could not have imagined that we could occupy. And we want to believe this was possible because the people out there, men and women, who sacrificed their time, and some of them, their lives, to make sure that this education we're talking about is a reality. These people, in so many years ago, fought fearless struggles and battles to make sure that the benefits we're talking about today do happen. They find themselves fighting with the South African Defence at the time. They find themselves fighting with Iron Smith Rhodesian War Army. They find themselves fighting with the Askaris. They found themselves fighting with the Bantustan Army. They found themselves fighting with all the people. We were put as a buffer zones by the apartheid system, so that this freedom that we're now talking about is not even within the horizon. And we're saying we're talking about the benefits of these people. As we continue our discussion tonight, we would like the people to understand and forget about every other thing that has happened and say, if they were to be these people, some of them really did not even get an opportunity to come back to South Africa. And we left them in so many countries, in Europe and in Africa, who are still battling to bring them back so that their parents can find closure. Now tell me, Ntate Mbulelo, what has been the problem in terms of meeting some of these obligations that we're talking about?
I think, Lennox, you have sketched the picture very well, so that we locate military veterans issues within the history of our country. Because they were integral, majority of them, those so-called non-statutory forces. You talk of members of former Mkhonto we Sizwe, APLA, Azanla, who constitute the non-statutory forces that were fighting against the apartheid system. On the other hand, according to the Act, we also recognize military veterans who were on the other side of the war. This former South African Defence Force, TBVC States Armies. That's the constituency that we support as defined by the Military Veterans Act 18 of 2011. It recognizes those who were on the side of the fence and those who were actually fighting against the regime. So the Department of Military Veterans is relatively a young department established after 1994. It was essentially established in 2010. So as a young department with a small budget, it has to deal with a backlog of some of the issues that we've mentioned. People who had no state support, people who were living in conditions that were very difficult in exile, and so on and so forth. Some were in Robben Island. Some would have been in prison in various ways. They suffered the injustices of the past. And it's not an accident of history that the Constitution of the Republic, when it opens, it says, we the people of South Africa recognize the injustices of the past and therefore honor those who fought for democracy and freedom in our country. It's not a statement of rhetoric. It's a recognition that these men and women have traversed a very long journey. They really contributed in us, me and you, sitting in this studio today, many having posts they have in government, in the private sector, because of the sacrifices they made. And therefore, as a department, we have a big obligation to restore the dignity of these men and women, to bring stability in their lives. And in this context, the Military Veterans Act defines a veteran as those who were in conflict in the various past of our history. There would be those First and World War veterans. There would be those who were actually during apartheid. There were SADF. During the liberation struggle, there were those who were in the various liberation movements I spoke about, and the former Bantustan armies. So the Act takes care of them, all of them. But it is clear as a policy intent of government that deliberate efforts must be made to affirm those who actually were benefiting nothing, were actually suffering the injustices of apartheid. And therefore, our policy, whilst the Act is clear, emphasizes the fact that priority is given to those who try to balance their lives because they sacrificed and they didn't have any benefit. So we provide primarily, in most of the benefits we provide, it is mostly them who benefit Now, it is not necessarily discriminatory. It's affirming the fact of the history that they cannot be equal. It's affirming the fact of the matter that their experiences, socio-economic wise, is not the same. And therefore, that's a trajectory of our policy in terms of how we do our business every day as a department. Now, the department, relatively speaking, as I said, is a young department dealing with a complex task that transcends decades. Now, the department was formally established in 2010 by proclamation and was established formally in 2011, so many years after democracy in 1994. So it's catching up, it's trying to build a department that's responsive to this huge task in front of it. One of the major interventions that we're making is education. We've got health that we have to provide, quality health. We've got houses to provide. We've got 11 benefits stipulated in Section 5 of the Military Veterans Act. All of those within a limited budget this year of 627 million rands. Certainly we don't need rocket science. We can only go but far. Last year, in trying to make a dent on education as a quality aspect of the social life of people, we allocated 145 million. We were servicing 8,018 military veterans in tertiary and basic education. Out of those, 5,039 were in basic education, 2,979 in higher education. Surely, you would recognize the fact that the demand was high and the resources were not available. So we're grappling between making sure we recognize the constitutional rights of people to have education within available resources. So that's a challenge we've been grappling with, and explain how we do it, what we do, and how we seek support of the entire society to solve this matter so that at the end of the day, all of us are part of a journey of building a better life for a military veteran.
Talking about better life for military veterans, I'm told out there's Tony who would like to engage with you. Tony, you're on air. Tony,
Yes, sir.
you're on air, sir.
Okay.
You can ask your question. Ndata Musi is here.
Commissar, good evening.
Good evening, Chief. Compliments of the new season.
Compliments to you too, man, Commissar.
Sure.
Commissar, I don't know, maybe we just got connected when there was the part of the asking of questions. Eh?
No, you are the first to ask, so feel
But-
free.
Sorry?
You are the first to ask, feel free, Tony. You are Tony from where?
From Pretoria, Commissar.
Okay.
Really pertains to one, the recognition of a former SANDF. Remember, Commissar, we said we were a government in exile.
Yes.
We didn't recognize the status quo of the apartheid regime.
Yes.
Now, we're being defined or categorized as non-statutory forces. Now, the question is, firstly, who is statutory if the apartheid regime that we fought against, we did not recognize? Even the United Nations, per se, declared it in that fashion.
A crime against humanity.
As a crime against humanity,
Sure.
you know? And then, Commissar, we find a situation where our children or dependents thereof, be it our wives or our children, on the medical issue, cannot be recognized. But the former SADF, even grandchildren, go to one meal. I do go there. You even find grandchildren who are accessing these facilities of the state that is being governed by our own party, the African National Congress. I think, Commissar, let me start firstly by saying I love my organization. And I know my organization to be a very caring party. We used to live and be catered for, you would know, by Abondate Ahulu.
Ntate Tony,
You know?
Ntate Tony, you are raising very, very pertinent issues. I don't want to cut you. We have over 13 people who are lining up, and we don't want the guest not to touch the contents of today's program, which is educational support that they offer. There's a reason why we are discussing that topic. I'm not cutting you. Try and make it fast, Mr.
Sorry,
Tony.
Let me come to the education issue.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to make it personal, Commissar.
Yes.
My daughter is supposed to be registering tomorrow. I don't have the 5,000 rands. And nothing has come forth from the DMV.
Registering,
And she's-
registering where, Tony?
At what's this college? Sorry, Commissar. It's one of the colleges here in Pretoria.
Yeah, but it suffices. It
Yeah,
suffices.
that suffices.
We've got your details. We'll try and check that after the program. But continue, sir. Sorry about that.
So what I'm saying, Commissar,
Yeah.
a fee, I can even give an example. I'm sorry to mention a name, of a comrade of ours, because he spoke to you, Commissar, Uzix Usagel.
Yeah.
He had to pay a registration fee of 5,000 because his daughter couldn't, register because of the deadline. And we're sitting with those situations,
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ntate Tony. In fact, I'm sure you were not asking only for yourself, and so many people who are listening right now, I'm sure would be answered when Ntate Mbulelo responds to your question. Ntate Mbulelo.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. I think your issues around where we come from and the struggle, I think, are well said. You said it well, and I agree with you where we come from. Let me zoom into the issue of education. We are currently dealing with the matter on a daily basis. We have established a committee that is dealing with non-payments, delayed payments of 2018-2019. As we speak, we left the office now. Some of the members of that team are sitting here with me in the studio, precisely because we had to explain that we're working full blast with the issue. Daily, we're actually addressing them. What I can address with you, and perhaps some of a similar situation, right? They must be able to come to our offices, or they can call us. I'll give the details of where they can get us so that we can deal with the matter of either one, the issue of being able to establish your case, because each case differs from one to the other. We reimburse those that have paid where we are supposed to pay. That's one. Two, we also check if the whole school fees has not been paid besides the registration, and if the student is continuing. We've made it clear. We went on road shows. The DG was on television, on radio last year, to say all those that we've been supporting, who we call continuing students, we have an obligation to make sure that they realize their dreams of education. That commitment still stands. And if your kids fall in that category, rest assured we'll honor our part, including those that perhaps might not have phoned but are faced with the situation. But I'll give the details on how you contact us, or you can come to our offices tomorrow. There's a team dealing with this. You'll get, I hope, a satisfactory solution of your problem. But thanks for coming out, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. You are still tuned to the special broadcast brought to you by the Department of Military Veterans in collaboration with GCIS. Indeed, Ntate Mbulelo is correct. I can testify to that fact. Right in front of us, it's a pity this is not television, otherwise you would have seen them or you would see them. Ngiphethe retired general here, ubaba General Masisi, and ngiphethe uLebu lapha, ukhona is looking at me. In fact, it's like, what are you talking about? Ngiphethe uPhumeza. These people from here, they are going back to the office to try and shift things around so that cases like the one Tony has raised are addressed. At this point, we are going to Alwa North. We have Patco. Patco, you are on air. You are going to have to switch off your radio, Patco. Madume, switch off the radio that day.
Okay, already. Ndiyicimile bawulena.
Mkabaqabi vinika. Chona khona tata.
Ndiyabulela kakhulu. Ndibulela nakutata umbulelo. Nemibuzo embalwa mna. Ubangabe uyaqaphela last year utata umbulelo banifazami yayinguye bezile enkqubeni kuthethwa ngemilitary veterans besithi bazabokhela izindlu kokuqala indawo abahlala kuzo abanye bahlala ezindlini zasemakwabo so ke ngwabakoni ukuthi bazenzele into zabo ndifuna uqonda ukuba kulo project leyo kumalunga bendawo ningoku babethile bazahamba according the province but so far andikaboni into isenzeka abanye including up Alwa North one of the veterans uthe wasweleka ongekabikho movement ekhoyo. Second question, ngifuna uqonda ukuba ingaba ke ngoku abantwana babo since sithi bayanceda when it comes to tertiary okanye kwi-university bakhona kwi-database yabo na bona as i-Department of Military Veterans in order ukuthi ngoku abanye bagqibile esikolweni last year bahleli abanalwazi whether utata ebe-involve kwinto ze-military veterans and then even kwa umama na akanalwazi oluphangalele sekegugile ngabe into ezinjalo zilungiswa kanjani.
Thank you. At this point, all the way to Port Elizabeth, we have Ntate Mzoli Sijasi. Ntate Mzoli Sijasi, you're on air.
Yes, hello, sir. Thanks very much. Yes, thanks. I've been listening to Mr. Yakotoliaka and his queries about educational matters. I would like to talk about business opportunities that were promised to military veterans.
Okay. Business opportunities.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know whether I'm being out of order for the purpose of being in order.
Okay.
I'm from Indima Co-op. We promised that each department would consider our cooperatives for business opportunities. I am from Port Elizabeth. I'm on the coast. And with business ocean, we promised ocean economy. And we applied for fishing rights at some stage to fish squid and hake. We were unsuccessful, but no reason were offered. They appealed, but no response. And at some stage, I had heard a rare opportunity to meet with the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries at Oneste Port and asked him about the fishing rights. And he said the appeals were being processed. Up to this day, we have not yet anything. Sir, I would like to move on to the fact that young fellows who left our country in their teens, I wish there could be a concerted effort to cancel them. Our guerrillas are dying as paupers with no psychological assistance. Some were or are still told that they were young and could not benefit from the special pensions. I do not, for one moment, question the laws of our country. But when they joined MK, they were never told this. Finally,
Yes. Yes, sir.
to urge your department to expedite the whole question of repatriating the remains of our comrades. I would like to mention Nokuthula Gift Mkhibe in the Transkei, former Transkei rather, Minaw Oliphant in Angola, Mandla Mkat in Angola, Queen Ntambiso in Angola. I would like that department to expedite or try to expedite the repatriation of their remains for the proper burials. I would like to repeat what the previous speaker has just said about education. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ntate Mzolisi. Maybe we will take another and the very last call for this round. Tata Ulindile, you are on air.
Good evening, Mr. Lennox, and good evening, Commissar.
Good evening.
Commissar, I've got a challenge in the Eastern Cape as well. One of my I've got two challenges that I want to raise. Lindile coming from the Eastern Cape.
Okay, Lindile, thanks.
Commissar, I've got the problem with the centralization of the office. We in the Eastern Cape as comrades are struggling to get a good service from the military veterans office in Johannesburg. I was going to suggest that how about decentralizing the offices, like we are in the Eastern Cape, we've got the region of Amtata, East London, and Port Elizabeth. How about making a central office maybe in East London, where our comrades can take their issues to that office? I can make an example of me. I've been trying to register on the database since 2013. Up until today, I've not been registered. I've sent my stuff, and then I will be told that there's certain things that need to be sent, and I'll send those things, and then when I phone again and see how far is my registration in the database, then I'll be told that no, I still need to send certain documentation. I've done that many times. I don't think even now I'm registered on that. And the other point is about support to the military veterans in terms of their businesses. We're told that as military veterans, we can get support from the department to support us. Me and other comrades, we started some business and we registered on the database of the military veterans where we ask for support, but till today, I mean, I'm running a Vienna guest house in Waterkloof Ridge, and always there's activities that is taking place in Pretoria, and there are military veterans that always goes around there, but there's no support. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we are going to suspend taking the calls until at least we exhaust all the questions that were asked by the colleagues out there. But there's one particular caller, it's PADCO. What I like about PADCO, it justifies programs of this nature. You see, if we don't communicate what we are doing, and the people who are unfortunate that the services have not reached their corner might not realize the gravity or the spade work that has been done or the work that has been done by the Department of Military Veterans. I'm particularly happy because he was talking about the houses and all that stuff. I was smiling because I know the kind of work that has been done by the department in as far as that particular thing is concerned. But what I pick up from there, we cannot get tired of communicating. You see, people get to go out there and ban stuff because they would say there's no service delivery. But if they go next to the next village, they will know indeed there people have benefited. Maybe next week the train was coming to stop at their station. But let me not answer for you, Ntate Mbulelo. These are the questions, and these are the colleagues. They are saying, please help.
Thanks, Leonard. I think you're spot on. Communication is key. It's an area that we recognize we need to improve drastically in 2019. We've been trying. We didn't go on road shows. You'll remember. We've been on radio. We've been on television. But quite clearly, a lot more still need to be done. Our plan for 2019. The area of major improvement is going to be communication. Now, I want to link this with the fact that how we render services is also an area under review. In the manner in which we are structured, we've got the national office in Pretoria, we've got provincial offices in 9 provinces, and in each province we've got about 3 workers. 2 are the coordinators as well as a help desk person. We feel that the way in which the design is, it is not reaching out to Alwal North. Therefore, PADCO will find himself not reached out. We feel a person in Mkanduli doesn't feel us because we are in Bisho. So all I'm saying is, in the road shows we had in the 9 provinces, we heard it loud and clear from military veterans. We came back to the office and said, what is the story that they are telling us? They say, review the way in which you reach out on us in terms of services. On top of the agenda of the leadership under General Mkwebi now is decentralization. We're revisiting our structure to ensure that we can reach as many regions as possible, naturally within limited resources. But we're clear, the current design is not helping us to reach people like PADCO in Alwal North. So we recognize that it's a problem we've identified. We're working on it as we speak. We've reviewed our structure to speak to regionalization, decentralization, that Lindile speak about in Port Elizabeth or in the Eastern Cape as well. One of the things we can't do and we have to do because it's compliance is to restructure alone. We have to work with the Department of Public Service and Administration. We have to work with National Treasury to avail resources so that when we have those offices, we have our personnel, it is paid for, and the services are rendered effectively and efficiently. So those negotiations, as we speak, are underway, precisely because we recognize the current design and conjecture doesn't work. So we recognize it and we're addressing it. The second part that's coming out from PADCO, it's in relation to the issue of the houses themselves. I think it's only fair for me to be honest, and I think I'll be reflecting the view of my colleagues and the department as a whole. We have not moved fast as we should have. Let's acknowledge that. Because the problem, the beginning of a solution of a problem starts with its acknowledgement and recognition. We have recognized the department, but I can tell you now, as of late last year, we have begun to turn the tide around housing. 200 flats were given to military veterans around Joburg. We're finishing that process. The first time ever in a province we have 200 military veterans placed into places of comfort with their families. That tells you that I'm not talking theory. We were there, the world saw it on television, and the ministers were there. Secondly, I'm pleased to say that the president will be making a major announcement. It's not my duty to do it. Hopefully in the State of the Nation address or whatever platform. We're going to be building a massive house project in Gauteng, which will actually house scores of military veterans. I'm not privy to announce, but I do know on the 15th of this month, the president visited the Department of Defense and military veterans. And when we spoke to him as part of his work of trying to review the work of departments, one of the things he said is that the issue of military veterans, especially in relation to, he says, not housing, human settlements, must be dealt with differently from now on. We must build houses, and next to those houses, there must be clinics, there must be schools, there must be amenities where veterans, because it's people who come from war, who were never taken care of. It must be easy for them to take their children to school. It must be easy for them to access health facilities. And therefore, that's the direction we're moving. He'll be making a major announcement on how we do it. There's a pilot that's going to start very soon. We're excited about it. So I can tell PATCO without any fear of contradiction, we're turning the corner on housing. I can say in a very light note, South Africa will be construction site of military veterans houses this year. I want them to get into a point that says that in the Western Cape, we've got a project called Bella. 102 military houses are complete. We're handing them over soon. In Highbury, we take places that are next to amenities, not the typical apartheid special development. Houses must be nearer to where people can get amenities, right? That's a model we're doing in the Western Cape. In Highbury, we have 100 being built. They're completed before the end of the financial year. 102 are being handed over by the Minister very soon of Defense. And also can talk of Sundowns, which is a place in the 75 military veterans already inside. And we are right again. Maybe we're not communicating our successes, but indeed we're making a dent. We'll make a bigger dent in 2019, and that's not an empty promise. And the last issue around what PATCO has raised, and before perhaps I go into this, is the issue that relates to tertiary and database interface. Let me also acknowledge, we have a database that is a serious problem in the department, and we're addressing it. A chief director now at that level has been appointed to deal with the issue of cleaning up the database. I will repeat it as I always repeat in this platform. It is not uncommon in our database to find a child younger than democracy is calling himself a military veteran because he must benefit a house. He must get to school free, right? The stories are very amazing, anecdotes. So people are taking chances because our system was not strong or tight security-wise. Now we're tightening that, we have more controls, and I think we're going to be able to shift chaff from real military veterans. That project is top priority. The DG has given a deadline that by March, we should have been done with making sure we have a strong, clean, a credible, reliable and secured database. And that's the direction we're moving. Hopefully then we'll meet the target and everybody's working hard to reach that. Now what it then does is, because it is not clean, it is not linked to benefits. So tertiary, you find a person is in tertiary, but you don't see him or her in the main database in Pretoria. There's a disjunct. Natural, no rocket science. It easily corruption can come in. People can come in and pretend they are military veterans, lie to the system, and are not able to detect because data is not giving us management information to be able to detect before fraud takes place. So we are going in the direction as well of involving law enforcement agencies. Those who are fraudsters are going to face the music. Why steal the money of those who fought for this country who are poor, when we know that we don't deserve to. Surely we'll have to go a hard route, and that's the direction we're taking. And we want to warn people, stop it before we get into you. It won't be nice.
Good.
It's not our intention to take people to jail, but we'll have to make an example in 2019. You steal the money, you face the consequences. It's as simple as that. Now, I want to go to a point that relates to what Mzolisi raised, and it was also raised by another person. The issue of business support. In terms of the Military Veterans Act, Section 5, we also have an obligation to provide business support to military veterans and their dependents. That business support includes financial support, training, giving opportunities, whether it's private sector or government opportunities where they can do their business. We have not done well. But I think now we're also re-engineering that area. Because even during the roadshows to me were one of the most best research, direct, empirical data gathering, where veterans talk for themselves, not through associations or spokesperson who sometimes actually tweak the information. And they raised it. They said to General Mkwebi and the teams, we want to live our own lives independently. We didn't live in order to depend on government. And to do that, we must be supported in business. We're forming cooperatives. I was in Port Elizabeth last week, in Nelson Mandela Bay, I'm sorry the name. I was in Chetty on Friday. I spent the whole day there. There's a project called Chetty 491. I stayed there spending time with all those. Now, Chetty 491 is meant to be 491 houses built in Chetty for military veterans. Guess what? The money is 92 million rands allocated. The then Minister of Human Settlement allocated 92 million and said this is going to be a pilot project done by military veterans, for military veterans, with military veterans. In 3 years after, when we are supposed to be completing the project, only 95 houses are built. Surely we must look at, is this intervention the best model? If it is, how do you make it work? And we have reported to the DG and MENCO, we've reported to the DG of Human Settlement, it's going to be reviewed. Because can you imagine if we deliver 491 houses? Can you imagine the jobs we can create in that project? Can you imagine business opportunities we could create? So surely we need to strongly monitor and look at what happened so that we're able to make sure that the model that was designed works. So we are fixing the car while it's moving. We will make mistakes, but we learn from them. So I'm saying it's a direction of saying we are going to be encouraging military veterans to come to the party. In the project that the president will be announcing, one of the key outputs we want is that military veterans companies must be part of that building architecture. They must get businesses in terms of actual business, also be able to get jobs in that space. So it's an area that we're attending to. Lastly, in terms of what Mzolisi raised, repatriation of people, that's a very sore one. I do know that I've been part of, personally, assisting the Eastern Cape to go and repatriate certain cadres. As a survivor of Matola, we went to fetch one of those who fell. May his soul rest in peace. Upohulani, who the family said in their tradition they need him next to his ancestors. We went to fetch him, but it was because the Eastern Cape government has allocated a budget to repatriate people from the Eastern Cape who are requesting to be repatriated. But we still have a policy that should guide that. We still have a national determination that must have budget for that. Even if we don't repatriate them, but honor them and memorialize them and make them be remembered for their contributions. Those are areas we're looking at. There's what is called, which we work with Department of Arts and Culture, as Resistance Liberation Heritage Route, which is under Cabinet, where we are beginning to look at how best can we memorialize, honor all those who fell during the struggle. So there's a program for it. It's a question of positioning it, making sure that it is resourced, making sure that it's visible to all South Africans. So those are programs that we're working on now.
Okay. I'm not sure. We have, sorry about that. We have two callers. Is Percy Kumalo and Albert in that order. We will take Percy first. Percy, you're on air.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Still listening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, I just want to inquire about the what you call it, the medical access. Yeah, and together with the SRD because I did apply last year, but I didn't receive any correspondence. I don't know what's happening. Was it approved or what? And the housing as well. Because I was told that I'm late because my daughter is at school here at a location. So I ought to find a school for her and do all the quotations. And then for the transport, maybe it will be the thing off in the next day, in the year 2020. But for the time being, I'm not currently working. I'm staying at home. I'm only relying on handouts from friends and relatives. So it's difficult for me. I did apply for that SRD. I don't know how far is the process now.
Okay. Percy, thank you very much. Like we've said at the beginning of the program, whatever question you are raising, rest assured you are not asking for yourself. You are asking for everybody who might be there listening, as we are going to respond to that. We are responding to everybody who might have a similar question. At this point, Percy, and secondly, we do have your number. If there's any additional information that we might require from you, we'll certainly call you. At this point, let's go to Ntate Albert.
Yeah, le kae ra?
Umonate o jwang ntate?
Ke a leboga rra. My question is about the is that in this 2019, is the private student also about the food allowance because they've been struggling for many years not getting food allowance? And I also make about the why are we 32 battalions, like I am the 32 battalion 76, why are we not yet recommended more military veterans? Because in Tekitsamaya more branches, but they always reject us and they are always rude. And also the last thing is about the Facebook update more DMV for the military veterans. Why are they not answering us? Because when we ask, they just post, but they don't answer to us. It could be just an easy hello.
No, we are listening. You are on there. Continue that episode.
Yeah, that could be an easy list. And also, why the National Department called Pretoria, why are they not communicating with these branches on this 9 province, or they must get easy access? Like, we don't have to travel all the way from Pretoria, just come to these branches, but they are very rude. So please, I just need these answers now.
Okay, thank you, Ntate Albert. You'll get your answer. Ntate Mbu, these are the people who are seeking. As you are engaging around this, there was a caller who, what I was hearing from them, intervention of the department to intercede on their behalf to these various government departments. For instance, one was talking about fishing industry, and they've engaged Department of Agriculture. They feel it would be better if they are assisted by the department. Maybe this department will listen to them better. The ball is in your court, Commissar.
Thanks once again, Lawrence, and thanks to the questions, very important questions. Let me start with Percy, and then I'll end up with the one we're raising now around business support, focusing on agriculture and fisheries. Percy, let me say that our attempt to make medical access to free medical health is ongoing. At the moment, as we speak, we're sitting at almost 17,000 people who have access to free medical health. However, you'll know that this service we render it together with the Department of Defense, the South African Medical Health Services, SAMS. Now, that dependence on that system has got its own weaknesses. There are few institutions like about 1 mile, very far sometimes from people. Secondly, I'm a sick base. So what beginning to address, there was a strong meeting that was held between the DG and the Surgeon General of the Defense Force to find mechanisms in which we can make access to the service better. But further than that, we're also looking at the model of delivering health such that it is easier. And therefore, in that context, we'll be engaging with the Department of Health. We'll also be engaging with private practitioners to make sure that this matter is resolved. It's work in progress and is being addressed. We acknowledge the problems. We've made some significant achievements, but there are challenges which we're addressing. SRD and housing. I must say that SRD is one of the major problems that perhaps are creating our service delivery model to have challenges. People should know that of 11 benefits, SRD is not part of those 11 benefits of the Act. It came by ministerial intervention when we realized that the most destitute don't have anything to eat at home. That we said, let's attempt to see how we deal with those, because those people literally were dying in destitution and poverty. But it has brought about an unintended consequence of administrative challenges. We're now working with the Department of Social Development,
yes.
who are the custodians of this program. And we begin to hand over to it so that they're able to, they have systems, they have processes, they've got budget, they've got human resources to deal with it. We do not have that capacity. However, our intervention has been able to help about 2,000 and something people. But there's still many people applying. We're on a transit from us to the Social Development Department. We'll make the announcements as soon as those systems transfer consent and people will be referred there. We understand that he might have applied. I think it's a personalized thing. We can take the numbers and be able to follow up with Pacey on that one so that we can see how far his application are. But that's where the direction of delivering this service is going. The issue of housing has touched on it.
Yes, you did.
We are making a revolution in that space. School applications. With regard to school applications, I indicated that at the moment we're cracking those we didn't pay for 2018. I can say that the number is not as big as imagined. For instance, I indicated in the figures that for 2018, we've paid at basic education, out of 5,039, 3,336 have been paid. So we're remaining with 1,000 and odds. And the special team has been created to deal with that at basic education. In tertiary education, it's 1,000 and odds that we're dealing with. So we are working on it. However, we are very clear now more than ever before. We cannot solve this problem alone as a small department. We are working with the Department of Education. On Friday, we're having a meeting with them. They'll be helping us because some of the reasons why we don't pay, some schools are not tax cleared, which is a compliance issue.
Of course.
Some schools do not give us proper bank accounts. We don't know where to pay the money to. Some schools have got challenges in terms of the children change school and they don't inform us. And therefore, when you pay to your own school or you don't pay because you are not sure whether the student is still there. So we are reaching out to these schools. We've quantified the number per province, institution. Our provincial coordinators are going to those schools physically to get the correct information. Those that are non-compliant, the Department of Education has got an instrument of making sure they comply. So we think that with collaboration, and we call on associations of military veterans to come to the party, to work with us. Their members are affected. SANVA must come to the party. MKMVA must come to the party. Everybody must, because at the end of the day, this is not, they say the problem of military veterans is a societal challenge. It's not the problem of DMV. And the sooner we internalize that these are heroes and heroines of our country, not necessarily DMV, the better for us to solve this problem. The last part then I would like to indicate is that we have opened up for new applications. We delayed because we've got a shortfall of 122 million rand on education support. Now the minister is trying to look at National Treasury and negotiating for that with the Department of Education, etc. You understand that the free education policy was introduced last year, year before last. We're also climbing on that wagon to ensure that our military veterans also get free education offered by government. But in addition to that, we've opened up for new applications and they're going to be closing on the 15th. We're still grappling on the whether we shouldn't extend it to the 28th of February. So there are ways in which we're trying to make sure that no one is closed behind on a fundamental right that is a constitutional right to access to education. So our efforts are ongoing as we talk now. I want to then get into what Albert was talking about and then go into business issues. Let me say it as I said it before. Albert is from Battalion 32, which is a former SADF army.
Yes, yes.
I can tell you now, there's no discrimination against SADF members. I can tell you now, the Battalion 32 members that I know get support from us for their kids and everything. So essentially, I'll take this issue of his as a personal issue that we must follow up. If there are people who say in the name of DMV are violating Batupeli and treat people rudely, tell us who they are. We'll do what is supposed to be done. It's not the policy of the department to be rude. In fact, we are saying to our staff, these are heroes and heroes of our country who must be respected, treated with dignity and honor. And if we do make mistake, expose us so that we can correct it. So I'll appreciate who was rude to him and when and how. Because also sometimes I want to say, on the other side as well, military veterans must not be abused by members of military veterans, the staff of military veterans. they should also be knowing that respect is a reciprocal.
Exactly.
I must respect you, Lennox, as much as you respect me. You come in here, can't come in your office. I fought for this freedom. Give me my right and whatever. There's procedures and processes. So it's a mutual process where we can land in a space of mutual respect. Lastly, on my side, the issue is about business. The DG has met with the DG of Forestry, Agriculture, and them. As we speak now, they're following up in the Cabinet Lekgotla. We're engaging them because, yes, there are cooperatives that have been formed. Yes, there are businesses that want to go into agriculture and want to create a seamless process where they can be able to get support in terms of incubation, support in terms of financial support. So it's an ongoing program. We have not done well, but we're reviewing the way we do things. Now, that is important, you said. The Act, in fact, enjoins us as a department to coordinate interaction of military veterans with all departments, with all spheres of government, provincial and local. And that's an area we'll be focusing on in 2019. And we hope with those interventions, we'll be able to find a solution that's sustainable.
Thank you very much, Ntate Mbulelo. You see respect, and more respect. You see the absence of that hardens attitude. It's like a banking transaction. You don't go to the bank to withdraw if you did not deposit. There's no way you are going to get respect if you did not extend the respect. I've been there. I've seen how the colleagues behave. There's a phrase, in fact, when they get in there and see people who've been working, they will just throw phrases like imoto yethu le, imoto yamasocha, imoto yabafowethu le. And they're talking about the cars driven by the people who've been working through and through. Obviously, it does not sink well to the person who's been working all these years to be told by another person, what we are driving imoto yethu, we can take it anytime. Respect, and more respect. At this point, let's go to our calls. No, you're on air.
Yes. Okay, Karab. Yes.
Yes, sir. You can ask the question. Kuluma Tata.
No, I wanted to check. I'm a military veteran in Cape Town, but I'll prefer to remain anonymous. I applied for, in fact, when I came back from exile in 1994, I happened to be deployed in the trade union movement. And in that process, I bought a piece of residential land with the hope that I will be able to develop it. But that could not happen. But to cut the story short, I recently applied. I'm unemployed. I was a student till last year, and I have my honors and all that, trying to, shape my life. Now I applied for a house. I'm in the DMV database, and I applied for a house, and I was told because I have this piece of land, and so I cannot get a house. And my question is, perhaps was it better that I should have fallen flat completely, that I could benefit to get a house? I've got kids, I don't have a place to stay, I'm staying with families, and that's the situation I'm trying to raise. I'm still struggling to get a house. I'm being taken from pillar to post in the Western Cape Provincial Department of Human Settlement because of this plot. It's a vacant plot, and at some point, when I made contacts with the National Office of Human Settlement, comrades tried to assist to say, look, what if we build a house in your current plot? But I'm saying, but this is the plot I bought, and when I thought I would be able, because at the time there was no program for housing beneficiation for military veterans like it is now. So I was trying to shape my life. Now I'm being prejudiced, and I know there are people, some military veterans, and whether legitimate or not, who have houses, but they also benefited, in the DMV program of housing and beneficiaries. I need a house. I don't have a house, and because I have a piece of land which is vacant and that I could not develop, I am unemployed. I recently completed my studies. I mean, it's really frustrating.
Loud and clear, Babu Unono. our guest will try and engage with you. Maybe we might even take this one beyond this program. At this point, we are getting to Modise. And Tate Modise, you are on air.
Le kae?
O monate o jwang ntate?
Re tsohile ebe ke bua le general.
Yes, ke general Mbulelo Mos. Yes.
Okay, general le kae?
You see,
feel free to call me
you see
Mbulelo.
Mbulelo is from MK, and all the members of MK are generals. But then you can ask your question.
Okay. Nna ke na le issue tse actually two. Number one, ya hore ya the first time student ba ilo kenang go university ne. Ngwana ke ngwana actually ne. O ntse fundiwa ke DMV o passed matric ya high, and then I acceptwa ke UCT. As we speak now, we go UCT was nearly open day and so forth. Now, we reject you NSFAS based on the reason you are only 350,000 and so forth. Now, I can't go DMV or not. This is issue in a Kia Reina as DMV will take care of it. But now the problem becomes Wana go university accept that because of and then the registrations fell ka the one. I mean, the first payment is only the 1 of February. So now we retola issue or no. Hotels are about the commitment letter. Years maybe first week March. On about the adjudication process. I'm not sure how the adjudication process hotels you are in because the status already says someone or and now Banaba the first year go varsity. At the moment, which you are in Gabon, because varsity cannot take them, and then program academic year 12. And every two is that they are the payments. Lin Nagli, a veteran, so I'm a student. Now, it's my second year degree. Last year, I submitted invoices, the booker, including the laptop. I haven't received them the second year. You pass it last year. So here go in Fanscape because I'm doing this private university. Here go Fanscape. No DMV account is quiet because DMV I patel. So we are stuck in that problem. To copa the Karabo on that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and Datim Dise. Datim Bulelo.
No, thanks Modise for those questions. You are studying and second year and you are being helped and the Bukali, whatever there's been a problem, laptop and Fanscape as a service provider is not come to the party. I think it's about the details are how. We'll follow it up. I think we have an obligation to make sure that we pay. We have a policy of making sure that we pay for what we honor, we contract on with students and institutions. I'll take your numbers, we'll follow up. My team will then call you tomorrow. The second part, the student is our first year student and unanza support of TMV. First of all, Mwana Otsonko Matric, Ayako School Tertiary is a continuing student, Saruna. As I indicated, we have an obligation to show Mwana how proceed until I fulfill her dreams about education. So, Liene, Jaka Uburaka the 1st of February. Give me these numbers. I know there's an adjudication process. But adjudication process is not necessarily suggesting that people must be left out because of administrative work. Understand that. But we'll take it as a case. We'll remember feedback into a number. School QECT again. And then all the details, and then we'll take it up from there. But I really want to apologize for the inconvenience caused. Lastly, the issue of transferring our students who are from public schools to NSFAS. We realize, in fact, we're talking about it today in the office, that indeed we have to beef up the way we support our students. In the sense that we agreed with NSFAS, we'll take our people. They will not necessarily be subjected to all the means test that is done to all South Africans.
Good.
Military veterans ought to be treated as a special group, and we are working on making sure that, for instance, other students, when you're above 35, NSFAS doesn't take you. And I, as Mbulelo, I'm 61, and I want to study as a military veteran because I was fighting a war.
Good.
Now, why do you discriminate me for having contributed to the country? So those issues, we have to solve them differently. It can't be one shoe fits all. All South Africans are not necessarily faced by the same problems that military veterans face. So we're beefing up how we support NSFAS, not to discriminate or to leave people out in terms of support. And that's an area that's being addressed. Tomorrow, actually, we'll be discussing the matter in the office. Before the actual tertiary institutions open, we'll be coming with rolling out a program in that direction. Now, let me get to the issues relating to the anonymous. Just be anonymous next time so that I know who I'm talking to. That's on a light note. Comrade Anonymous, I hear that you come 1994 at whatever, you came back into the country and the issue of housing. Can I also take him offline?
Good.
I'm raising this, Mr. Anonymous, Comrade Anonymous, because...
Mudise. Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, no.
Siyakwazi manje akho anonymous no. Bengithi ke no. Ube ufune ukuba anonymous bakwenze ngabi anonymous. Bengithi no. What I'm trying to say is the issue yakho ya housing and owning land and HSS, the housing subsidy scheme discriminating you. We are trying to find a solution. We're working with the Department of Human Settlement. We've signed a memorandum of understanding, a service level agreement with the provinces, and such unique cases are solved case by case. That's why I'm saying, let's hear his story. We'll raise it on his behalf with Department of Human Settlement. I'm sure we'll be able to find a solution that makes you have your home, a house you call your own, and your children's one. Thank you.
Okay. And Tate Mbulelo, as people are getting the pens, because I'm going to give them very, very important numbers in terms of how they get in touch with the department. Any parting note, anything that you think you want to give to the listeners there in the next coming 10 seconds?
I want to say to military veterans, we remain committed in giving you education because it's an important tool to shape your lives. I want to say we'll work closely with you so that we can find solutions. To those we inconvenienced, we apologize. To those we're working with, we'll continue to work better to improve our services.
What a beautiful note to leave this broadcast tonight. Like we have said, we believe we've got a pen now. Get in touch with the department, www.dmv.gov.za. And in fact, we are moving with time. We have the Facebook address, which is Veterans ZA. And on Twitter, we are at Veterans ZA. Here is a very important number. It's a call center, 080-232-3244. The number again, 080-232-3244. On that note, we have come to the end of our special broadcast brought to you by the Department of Military Veterans in collaboration with GSIS. It's good night.
Good night.